right, picking up where we left off before, we're going to be talking about credit cards specifically. So the difference between a credit card and a debit card, I'm sure that actually most of you know this, but the easiest way to explain it is that a debit card is your money. It takes money directly from your bank account or your credit union account. And then a credit card is money that you're borrowing. So every time you spend money on a credit card, you're actually taking a loan from the credit card bank. So what is a credit card? Again, it's pre-approved credit that can be used for the purchase of goods and services now that you can pay later. What's useful about a credit card is that it doesn't usually matter what you're spending it on unless it's a specific like store credit card. If you've got a Kohl's card or a gas card or something and you can only spend it at that store. But if it's a Visa or a MasterCard or something like that, then you can spend it on whatever you want and there's no limitations except for the amount that you can spend. And that limitation is called a credit limit, and that varies based on your credit worthiness. So your credit limit is the maximum dollar amount you can spend on that credit card, or the amount that they'll loan you. And your credit worthiness is your ability and willingness to pay the money back. You're going to assess your credit worthiness from your credit score or your credit report, which is basically just a compilation of how well you pay your bills, and a credit score is a score based on the compilation of all that information on you. Your minimum payments each month on a credit card is what's required. You have to pay a minimum payment each month on that loan that you've taken out. The minimum payment is usually a small percentage of the total balance due. You can pay off as much of that credit card as you want during that month. So you could pay the entire balance and not get any interest collected, or you can pay small bits at a time as you are able to. But if you carry a balance, if you are paying only the minimum payment or just a little above the minimum payment, it's going to take you a long time to pay off that card, and you're going to pay quite a bit more in the end than if you just paid it off each month. So here's an example of what it can look like if you're just making minimum payments. So in this first one, if you've got $2,000 loan on that credit card, you've got a $2,000 balance. Maybe you bought a piece of furniture or a whole new living room set or something. And the percentage rate is 18%, the annual percentage rate. If you're making $50 minimum payments each month, that's the minimum payment. It's going to take you 62 months, which is over 5 years. 60 months is 5 years. So it's going to take you 5 years and 2 months to pay off that $2,000 debt. In the end, you're going to pay about $1,000 in just in interest over that 5 years. So that $2,000 furniture or $2,000 purchase you originally made is going to cost you about $3,077. Here's the example with $500 at 12%. Minimum payment $25. It's going to take you almost 2 years to pay that off. You're going to pay another $60. So your total is $567. So smaller balance, smaller percentage rate, smaller minimum payments, but you're still paying more than what you would have if you'd have just paid that off at the beginning of the month when you purchased it. So some examples of using credit cards to be in a positive way. For good instead of evil is paying your credit card balances in full every month. So only spend as much on your credit card as you are able to afford that month. So the best way to build up credit as a young person is to get a credit card with a low credit limit so that you can't get into too much debt, and then use it for things that you would have already paid cash for. So go to the grocery store and buy your gas and things like that. And then in the budget that you would have made for yourself, whatever money you would have put towards gas and the groceries, you're going to throw that at your credit card. And so ideally, if you had $50 to spend on gas for the week and you spend $50 on your credit card, you can just pay off your credit card, and then you're not worried about carrying debt on your credit card, and all you're doing is building up your credit history. So pay your credit card bills on time, and on time means that the bank has your money on or before the due date. It doesn't mean that you put it in the mail on the due date. It means that they have your money by the due date. Only apply for credit cards that you need. The more often you apply for credit cards, the more often your credit report gets pulled and checked. And to be honest, every time somebody pulls and checks your credit report so that they can offer you a loan, it actually brings down your credit score a little bit. So the fewer times you can do that, the better. Keep track of all the charges by keeping your receipts and using a check register. If you're using a credit card, especially for your everyday purchases like groceries and gas, you should be keeping track of how much you spend on that anyway to help you keep track on your budget. So just to make sure that you're not getting overcharged on that credit card, when you get your credit card monthly statement at the end of the month, you should compare what's on that credit card statement to the receipts you have to make sure there aren't any purchases that you did not make. And then that's what it means by check the monthly credit card statement for errors. So here's some negative credit card use or ways that you can use credit cards for evil instead of good. Making late credit card payments. If you make late payments, for one thing, you're going to be paying higher interest for longer time. Number two, you might get penalty fees or penalty APRs. So if you are late too many times, your APR, your interest rate on that credit card might jump from 16% to 24% or something like that, depending on the fine print. And it's also going to go down in your credit report that you make late payments, and that's going to bring down your credit score. And anytime your credit score starts coming down, then it's harder to get loans on bigger things like cars and houses. Only paying your minimum payment each month. Again, you're just going to be carrying debt. It doesn't look good on your credit report. Exceeding the card's credit limit, you're going to get a penalty fee for that. You might get declined in the store for even using your credit card. And again, it shows on your credit report and brings down your credit score. Charging items that can't be paid off immediately. The best idea is to never use your credit card for something that you're going to eat or throw away. And I know I just said get a credit card and put your monthly normal stuff on it. So it depends on how you want to use your credit card. If you want to build up a credit history, then you're going to use your credit card to purchase your everyday items like gas and groceries. And then you're going to pay it off every month so that this doesn't become a problem. But if you're buying pizza every night just because you can't afford maybe you're too lazy to go to the grocery store, but you can't really afford a pizza every night, but you buy one every night anyway because you have this credit card, and it's really easy to whip that credit card out and buy a pizza. And then at the end of the month, you spent $300 in pizza, and you're like, oh no, I don't have that much money for my groceries or my eating out budget. If it's not something you can pay off immediately, don't buy it. But a better rule of thumb is don't buy something that you literally can't see. Like pizza is something you can't see the next day except in the toilet. So you're just flushing away all that money and you're going to pay extra interest on it. So if you can't pay it off the same month you're going to buy it, don't buy it on a credit card. And then having too many credit cards can cause problems in a couple of ways. First thing is it can bring down your credit score. It doesn't look good on your credit report. And for a lot of people, it just means for every credit card they have, that's one more bill that they have to worry about and think about and know when it's due and pay every month. So the fewer credit cards you have open, the better. Credit card offers, you're going to start getting those in the mail like a ton once you turn 18. The credit issuers are required to disclose the terms and the fees of credit cards in an easy to read format. We call that a Schumers box. And so any credit card offer you're going to get in the mail will have a Schumers box. What I'm about to show you is an example of a Schumers box, but it's an educational example. So it's not at all what it will look like on a credit card offer that you get in the mail, but it does have the same information. So one of the things it's going to show you is the annual percentage rate, and the APR is the interest that you're going to pay on that credit card, and the APR is just the interest expressed as a yearly percentage rate. There might be more than one interest rate listed here because the APR that you get might depend on your credit score and your credit worthiness. And so This one shows a 12.99, 13.99, or 14.99, and that's going to depend on your credit score. This one also shows an introductory APR for 1 year based on credit worthiness. So it'll be 12, 13, or 14, depending on credit worthiness, just for the first year. And then it shows that after that, your APR will be 14.99. So after the first year, everybody's credit or APR would go up to 14.99. And it says that this is a variable rate APR that will vary with the market based on the prime rate. So this is a APR that can change. My suggestion is never get variable rate APR credit cards. Always get one with a fixed rate. If it's a fixed rate, then it tells you it's 14.99, then it's always going to be 14.99 unless there's something else in the fine print that will change that. The next thing it's going to show on here is the introductory rate, like I said before. I'm going to skip what the words say on this because I already talked about that. In a couple boxes down, it's going to tell you that there are penalty APRs, and in this credit, in this application, the APR for penalty is 28.99, so it doubles from 14.99, and it will be applied to your account if you make a late payment, if you go over your credit limit, if you make a payment that's returned, so if your check bounces, or if you do any of those things on another account that you have with that same bank. And so if you're late on even one payment, you're going to go from 14.99 interest that you're paying on your loan to 28.99. And it does say that here that if your APR is increased for any of these reasons, it will apply until you make 6 consecutive minimum payments when they're due. So you have to make 6 months worth of on-time payments for that to go back. So anyway, this is, that's a pretty high one. Down here it says 21.99, but if you look over here, it says 28.99. So this one is the penalty APR. Penalty fees are another thing that's showing on this Schumers box. And a penalty fee is what kinds of fees you're going to incur if you use credit cards for evil instead of for good. So if you are late on your payment, you're going to get a $29 fee if you look at that box down there. If you go over your limit, you're going to get a $29 fee. And if your payment is returned, your check bounces, you're going to get a $35 fee. So a late payment fee is charged when a cardholder doesn't make the minimum monthly payment by the due date. And again, that means that the bank has your money on or before the due date. And the over the limit fee is if you go over the amount that you're allowed to go, that you're allowed to take a loan out for. I'm going to go back on here because there are a couple other things on this Schumers box that you should know what they are. One of them is an APR for balance transfers, and that just means that you've got a different interest rate if you take one credit card and use it to pay off a different credit card. They call that a balance transfer. So maybe you have a credit card that has a really high APR, like a 28% APR, and you want to transfer it to something that has a 12% APR. Because you're like, hey, I can pay that off in a year if I use my introductory rate or something like that. That balance transfer has a different APR. So that's this one on there. And then you might have a different APR for cash advances. And on this one, it's 21.99 for cash advances. And a cash advance is when you use your credit card like an ATM card and you actually put it in the ATM machine and take out cash. I would suggest that you never, ever, ever do that on a credit card because your APR for cash advances is always higher, and it's just not a good idea, again, to take out a monthly debt on your credit card for cash that you have no idea where it's going to go. Cash always just disappears. So if you look right here, it also has a box that says how to avoid paying interest on purchases. And it basically just says your due date is at least 25 days after the close of each billing cycle. We will not charge you any interest on purchases if you pay your entire balance by the due date each month. So if you, again, you make a bunch of charges on your credit card, but you pay them all off in that same month, you won't pay any interest at all. It'll be $0.00 interest, and it's a free loan for a little while. So that's just something to kind of be aware of. Also, a lot of Credit cards will charge you different fees. This one has a $20 annual fee, so it just means that every year they're going to charge you $20 on your credit card for having that credit card. It's just an annual fee. And if you don't pay that $20 off the same month that they charge it to, you will be paying interest on your annual fee. This one also has an account setup fee. So when you first open the account, it's going to be $20. Participation fee is another $12 annually. So you're going to pay an annual $20 and an annual $12 fee. So a total of $32 a year to own this card. This fee, where it says monthly participation fee, it's going to get charged every month. So you have to pay that $1 every single month, or you're going to get charged interest on that dollar. And then any additional fees, this one says additional card fee, $5 annual. And what that means is if you get a card for your spouse or your kid so that their name is on it and they can use it wherever they are, that's an additional $5 each year. And then these fees are, if you do a balance transfer, here are the fees. If you take a cash advance, here are the fees. And if you do foreign transactions, meaning you do some stuff outside the country, there are other fees. So there's a whole bunch of information in these Schumers boxes that you should become familiar with. This is the way to easily compare one credit card to another. When it comes to cardholder protections and rights, the Truth in Lending Act means that if your credit card gets stolen or lost and somebody else uses it, it limits your liability to $50. So even if somebody purchases a $2,000 item on your credit card, the most that you're going to personally spend or see come out of your pocket is $50 if you report it stolen. You do have to write a letter within 60 days of the bill that contains that error. And if the credit card number is used, but the card itself wasn't used, then you don't have any personal liability. So if somebody got a hold of your number somehow but didn't have your physical card, you have less liability there. Safety tips when using a credit card is instead of signing the back of your card, sign it with the words, "Please see ID." And that way, when you hand it to a cashier, they have to match it with your ID instead of just looking at your signature. If your signature is on the back, then if somebody steals your card, then they can just forge your signature and nobody will know the difference. Don't leave your cards laying around. And if you can't find a card, report it lost or stolen immediately. Close any unwanted accounts by writing a letter to the credit card company, by calling them on the phone, canceling it that way, and then cut the card up into pieces. Don't give your account numbers out over the phone unless you're the one that initiated that call, and don't give out your credit card numbers for any reason except to make a purchase. Keep a list of all your cards, your account numbers, and the phone numbers to get a hold of the bank associated with those cards in a separate area that's not near your cards and it's not a picture on your phone, but somewhere safe in your house. And then if you get a bunch of pre-approved credit card offers in the mail, shred them because other people can open credit cards in your name pretty easily if they get a hold of those pre-approved credit card applications that you might throw away because you get so many of them in the mail. And then a few online safety tips. This is the last slide, I promise. Use a temporary credit card number. This is something that you can call your credit card company and get, or you can sometimes go online to your online account and get a temporary card number that you can use to make online purchases. This is a one-time use only number. A set amount will be charged to your credit card, and then you'll be given a number to actually do your online shopping, so that if this is a good idea if you're using like a public computer where you're not sure about the safety of that browser or internet. And then always use a credit card instead of a debit card, because the protections that you have with credit cards do not transfer to debit cards. So if somebody steals your debit card or gets a hold of those numbers and does fraudulent charges, you're not necessarily protected with that $50 liability. You might end up having to pay for everything else or everything that somebody else bought. So just make sure if you're doing online purchases, you are doing those with a credit card and not a debit card. And again, making sure that those are things you can pay off right away. That is the end of this presentation. Thanks for listening.